Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 18, which is entitled as Sannyasa Yoga. Sloka 14 and 15, Part 8. Adhiṣṭhānaṁ tathā kartā karaṇaṁ ca pṛthag-vidham vividhāś pṛthak ceṣṭā daivaṁ caivātra pañcamam śarīra-vāṅ-manobhir karma prārabhate naraḥ nyāyyaṁ viparītaṁ pañcaite tasya hetavaḥ. For any actions that one performs, whether that action is sanctioned or prohibited in the scriptures, when a man starts to perform them through his body, words or mind, there are 5 factors which are involved as causes: the body, the individual self, the indriyas of different kinds, the various movements of the vital air, prana with its subparts, and importantly the 5th, namely the Supreme Self. We have been discussing whether the individual self, that is Jivatma, is it swatantriya kartā or paratantriya kartā? Does the Jivatma function independently or does it depend on something? To understand this, we refer to 3 sutras from Vedanta. Number 1, kartā śarīra-vāṅ-manobhir. Second one, parātu tat-śrutehe. Number 3, pṛthak-vidham. That is, the first one says it is definitely Jivatma who is the doer, as it says in the Shastra, otherwise the Shastra will be meaningless. And the second one said the Jivatma are totally dependent on the Supreme Self, Paramatma, to perform any actions. And the third one says the Paramatma is depending on the individual soul's initial step to be taken, prayatana, the effort. Now let's try to connect all these 3 so it makes sense to us. Because it is the Jivatma who makes the choices to perform an action, he is the kartā, the doer. Because he is the doer who can make choices, therefore the Shastra will not go waste. It remains meaningful. This is what we understand from the first sutra. That is, Jivatma is the doer because he has been given free will to make choices. Also, the Shastra becomes valid because the instructions that given in the Shastra are meant for who performs the action by their choice. Now, just because Jivatma got kartritvam, the doership, doesn't mean that he is now independent. Why? Because it is the Lord who gave Jivatma the swatantriyam, the independence, to make choices. Therefore, the Jivatma is not fully independent. Even during the time of choice, he is fully dependent on that samanya karaṇaṁ, the Supreme Lord who is a samanya karaṇaṁ. Therefore, parātu tat-śrutehe. So, Jivatma is the doer. He is not an individual doer. He is a dependent doer. Now, if he is dependent doer, who will take the responsibility of his action? That is what we saw in the 3rd sutra. Krita-prayatna-pekṣastu. That is, the Lord expects and waits for the adhya pravritti, the first step, to be taken by each individual self. the Lord does not interfere during the adya pravritti stage. He remains as udāsīna. Because he does not interfere in individual choices, therefore he cannot be taking responsibility. He cannot be blamed. The government has provided all the facilities that's needed. If the citizens of the government misuses the facility, then the government should not be blamed. Government is simply a samanya karaṇaṁ, is a general cause. But the vishesha karaṇaṁ, the individual person, the citizen, takes the responsibility of their action because they have been given a freedom to do certain things. If they misuse the freedom, obviously they are going to be punished. It is not the government to be punished. Similarly, yes, there is no doubt that Krishna leads one into actions, but he does that in tune with Jivatma's karma. Therefore, it is not at all proper to say that Krishna is Vishesha Karana. In the initial stage, before action begins, Krishna always remains as Samanya Karana. Why? Because he is given, he is granted, he has bestowed whatever is needed for the Jivatma to think and the ability to function using its free will. Let's take another example. Say a father who has 4 sons. A father gave $100,000 to each of his 4 sons. He gave them the freedom regarding the use of the money. He also advised them to make it grow through fair means and live comfortably with the money that is earned. 2 of the sons made their money grow many times over. One of them through proper means, whereas the other one through improper ways. The 3rd son was carefully preserving the amount given to him without increasing or without decreasing. Now, the 4th son squandered the money and was reduced to nothing and became a beggar pretty fast. So the question is, to what extent was the father responsible for the different outcomes? Certainly, father is not responsible. Similarly, Krishna's responsibility in our action is like that. He has given us everything that we need. If we use them in a right, proper means, then we progress spiritually. If we misuse what is given to us out of His causeless mercy, then we fall down, we degrade. How can we blame Krishna for our actions? He has given us the facilities like intelligence, body, senses, free will, and also the shastras through which we can learn them and discriminate what is good and what is bad. With all these, one should constantly endeavor to avoid sinful acts and undertake good deeds. Krishna has granted us freedom for this reason only. No father would give their money to their children, sincerely hoping and praying that his son will misuse the given wealth and go in a wrong path. If the fathers of this world can think like that, what about our eternal Father of the entire universe? One may ask why even He gave us that freedom. Because He gave the freedom, we are into this problem. Well, it's the same answer. He is not a shepherd and we are not flock of sheep. Moreover, we are not non-sentient being. We are sentient being. The Lord doesn't want to treat us like matters, like a rock, a table, a chair. So, being subservient to Krishna means with the help of the independence that has been sanctioned by him to us for performing the actions ordained by him. The reason that he has given us the free will, so that we use that free will to perform actions that pleases him. One may say that since I am anyway dependent on the Lord, I am subservient to him, I rather stay idle, do nothing. Let him take care of doing whatever needs to be done as per my karma. Again, this is also not accepted. Simple reason is because we don't just wait, not eating, that Krishna is going to come and feed me. We just don't wait for the money to drop from the sky, thinking Krishna will do it. For many of the material things, we take step. We put our effort towards success. But when it comes to spiritual matter, to take up the process of Krishna consciousness, to chant, to do services, to read the scriptures, to become serious and take initiation, we behave differently, saying that Krishna will make it happen because I am dependent on Krishna. He is the doer. We ourselves are so very contradictory to our thoughts. So what it means when we say Krishna is the doer and we are dependent doer can be understood with another example. We know during Rath Yatra, many people come together, hundreds and thousands of people come together, and they pull the Rath, the chariot, the temple chariot. For the movement of the chariot, all of them are the causes. Each one of them has allotted actions. In that, one of them has the job of directing the action, stipulating what is to be done and what ought not to be done. In a similar manner, many are associated with the action we perform. It is just not us alone. Therefore, we cannot simply say, I am the doer. So, yes, I am the doer, but I am not an independent doer. I am a dependent doer. Just because I am a dependent doer doesn't mean that I do not take the responsibility of my action, because it is me who make the choice with my free will. Unlike the motor example that we saw earlier, which compared to Atma, the motor is unconscious entity. It's a non-sentient entity. It doesn't have intelligence. Whereas the soul has intelligence to make choices. Whether you're pouring a glass of juice into the machine or pouring a glass of poison, the machine does not think about it anything. Whereas as human, as individual Jivatma, we are conscious entity. We are able to make difference between the fresh juice and a glass of poison. Therefore, the Atma always chooses that which is favorable for him and rejects that's not favorable. Well, one may ask a question, how is someone consuming poison knowingly can be a favorable one? Or how is someone jumping off from a cliff or a tall building wanting to end their life can be favorable for that person? Answer is simple. For that moment, for that Atma, that action gives a relief for them, for the problems that they may be going through. Therefore, for them at that moment it is favorable act, though it is completely against the scripture to kill oneself. That person thinks it is a favorable act. Therefore, the Lord assists in the action that the Atma chooses. He becomes Anumanta, he sanctions it. Therefore, Jivatma is kartā and also Paramatma is kartā. The Lord has given 3 tools to the Jivatma, that is body, senses and vital air. And with all these 4 tools including Jivatma, the Lord does his part of action. This is why we say that Lord is kartā, the main cause. And we also learn that Jivatma is also kartā because he has the free will through which he makes the choices. Based on the choices that the Jivatma makes and based on the karma of that Jivatma, the Lord sanctions it. Now comes the problem. Now that we understand how this whole thing is, there seems to be some dependency between Jivatma and Paramatma. Now, unless we agree and understand that we are the doer, the Shastra will be meaningless. Therefore, we need to know that we are the agency of our actions. We are kartā. But if we think we are the doer, kartā, then we will not be able to perform sattvika tyaga. Why? If we remember, when we learn sattvika tyaga, one of the important principle is I am not the doer. It is Krishna who's the doer. Whereas what we are learning so far is I am the doer. So how do we understand this and how to apply sattvika tyaga? We will learn about this in our next session. Namaste. Hare Krishna.